thoughts running through my mind right now about how this workout's gonna suck, it's gonna hurt, but all I can think about is what it is I'm doing this for. When you're obsessed with something in you just changes. When you're obsessed with something, you can't help but strategize. You can't help but try to dissect the game, whatever the game that is for you, so that you can figure out what your weaknesses are, so that you can turn those weaknesses into strengths. It's going to require a different attitude, a different mindset, a different obsession with what it is that you're working towards. That's what's keeping you up at night. That's what keeps calling you. So I just got back from a camping trip literally today, maybe a couple hours ago, and I'm back at the gym. There's a lot of thoughts running through my mind right now about how this workout is going to suck, this is going to hurt, but all I can think about is what it is I'm doing this for. That's what I keep replacing with that thought. Every time a thought pops up, I'm like, oh my God, bro, abs is gonna suck. I'm like, okay, but what do I want? Abs. If I want abs, I have to do abs. Right now, the mission is to build the best physique that I possibly can. I'm not trying to compete, not trying to stump on no stage. I just want to be the best version of myself. I like what comes with being in the best condition. You know, I like the mental clarity. I like saying that I achieved something that most people can't. So that's why I'm here. It's raining. There's not a lot of people here. All I'm gonna see here today is gym rats and old people. I realized that I forgot my tripod, so I don't know how much camera video footage I'm gonna get of my workout, but I did bring a Robert Greene book with me that I'm like kind of treating as like my Bible for the next 5 months. So I'm probably going to read a passage with you guys and just kind of give my breakdown and like my takeaway from it. I will say this though, man. I think journaling is so valuable. This is totally off topic from what this video is about, but in a way it's kind of correlated. But if you ever have a lot on your mind and you don't know what to do, like you don't know how to transmute that energy into something, you know, productive, reach for a pen and a piece of paper. I don't even care if you don't have a journal. If you have a pen and a paper, that's all you need. But what you need to do is you need to write down what's like the thoughts that are just sticking out the most. You need to put those on paper. Get them out of your head. And then kind of just like let that turn into a spider web of thoughts. Like all these things are connected together. It'll take you somewhere. You'll be surprised at what you put on paper and what realizations you come up with, but I think it's extremely valuable. To me personally, there hasn't been any exercise more powerful and valuable than journaling. So that would be that's something I just kind of want to leave you with, bro. If you're, you know, going through a lot mentally, journaling is what you're missing in your routine. So I have the book Mastery right here with me, and I want to share with you something that I've just read. So this chapter, I don't know what chapter this is. I kind of just randomly picked up the book and opened up to a page. And ironically enough, this is what it came up to. Move towards resistance and pain. Man, my boy Crowd would love this. But essentially, it's telling a story. The first story is about Bill Bradley, who was, you know, a basketball star who played for the Knicks at one point in time. This is a really old player, so if you don't know him, that's probably why. It's because, you know, he was back in the 90s, early 1900s, 1943. So here are the things that stand out to me most about the Bill Bradley story. This is very interesting. So listen, check this out. It says, over the years, he would keep rigidly to a schedule. In the gym, he would put 10-pound weights in his shoes to strengthen his legs and give him more spring to his jump. His greatest weaknesses, he decided, were his dribbling and his overall slowness. He would have to work on these and also transform himself into a superior passer to make up for his lack of speed. When you're obsessed with something in you just changes. I've always had this obsession with being the best version of myself. Reason being was because I was obsessed with getting pretty girls. I remember just coming up with all these different strategies on how to get the type of girls that I wanted. Okay, I would think about this endlessly, like for hours. I really started to analyze how I could go about getting the type of girls that I wanted. And that's exactly what Bill Bradley did. When you're obsessed with something, you can't help but strategize. You can't help but try to dissect the game, whatever the game that is for you. You can't help but dissect the game so that you can figure out what your weaknesses are, so that you can turn those weaknesses into strengths, so that you can use those weaknesses and turn it into an advantage, right? And that's what's so beautiful about being flawed. You know, a lot of people, you know, they shame themselves for not being tall enough. They shame themselves for not having enough money. They shame themselves for being a certain ethnicity. We're not realizing that, dude, these are the things that could turn you into a fucking absolute, like, diamond in the rough instead of being a rough in a diamond. Because that's how people look at themselves most times not. You know, people look at all their flaws and insecurities and think, poor me. But really, if you could see the advantage, right? Okay, so you think because you're Indian or because you're black, you can't get that type of girl. But no, really, it's, dude, because you're black, maximize things that, you know, maximize other areas that would make you even more compelling as a black man. Like having money, having your shit together, being well put together, having a certain demeanor about yourself where you like, you're well spoken, right? Like you being black now becomes a superpower because you develop other characteristics that aren't associated with being black. And that's not to say black people are considered stupid by everybody, right? But there's just certain things you look at a black guy and you think, oh, he's just going to be in shape and just all he's good for is sports. Okay, well, what if I'm very articulate? What if I'm very wise? What if I'm very knowledgeable? What if I'm multifaceted? I know how to build. What if I'm smart? I know about like current events. I'm good with politics. I know how to hold myself in any room. Then I become dangerous. And there's no limit to what I can attract in this world because I've now turned something that society or something I may have been grown to believe is a weakness, I've now turned into a superpower. I've now turned into an advantage. And that's exactly what Bill Bradley did. It took him being obsessed with mastering his game, his sport, his art, in order for him to even have the desire to dissect, how do I get better? How do I turn a weak? Like, how do you even arrive to the point where you ask yourself, what is my weakness? It would require you to care a lot about what it is you're trying to get to even come to a question like that and answer it honestly. Now, remember, his weakness that he discovered about himself was his poor dribbling and his speed. So what he did was he devised various exercises. He wore eyeglass frames with pieces of cardboard taped to the bottom so that he could not see the basketball while practicing his dribbling. This would train him to look around rather than at the ball, a key skill in passing. So what you do when you're obsessed with something and you truly want to be great at it, what you do is you realize also what are the skill sets that make you superior in the game that you're playing, in the sport that you're playing. What are the skill sets? If you're in a league of, let's say dating, if you know that being emotionally intelligent is a skill set, then what you're going to practice is you're going to practice letting people talk, and you letting people talk and listening more than you're doing the talking. You're going to practice being more interested in what people have to say than being so interested in what the fuck you're telling them. Because what you're telling them is probably not that interesting. I mean, you're probably just rambling on about yourself. You're just yapping. Learn to let people yap and learn to be genuinely fascinated and interested in what people have to say. How do you do that? You have to develop some type of strategy, some type of exercise to practice that. Maybe it's saying hello to every stranger and asking them, how is their day going? And when they tell you, you're like, I've never heard that song. You sound like, what's that Future song? Right? Like, that's what it will be required, is learning to be playful with people, learning to take people and make people feel comfortable. I thought what was most interesting, like the reason, like there was things that I underlined in here, and there's two words that I underlined in this book, in the Bill Bradley story, and it was for hours. And then I also underlined, he worked on this endlessly. Now, the reason those two words stuck out to me is because earlier I was journaling, And I was just thinking about like my journey with like fitness. And I'm thinking about how sometimes all I can think about is how long it's going to take me. And I feel like this is a common problem that people run into when they're trying to get in shape, right? They think about, wait, I got to eat clean for the next 30 days to see results, to see progress. I got to do X, Y, and Z for this long. This ain't going to work tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to bear the fruits tomorrow. And it's so funny because I used to watch Bob Proctor a lot, and he would talk about how like every seed has this germination process, meaning that every seed you plant is gonna take time to become the end product, which is a tree or whatever it is that you're planting. So you're never just gonna get the result like this. It's gonna require a different attitude, a different mindset, a different obsession with what it is that you're working towards, you know, and also just a respect for that thing, a respect for knowing that you're gonna have to groom this thing. You're gonna have to wield it into existence. You're gonna have to, like, God didn't just snap his fingers in the Bible. God didn't just snap his fingers and then everything came into fruition. No, it took him 7 days in the Bible. It even took God time. It even took God time to create the heavens, the earth, and everything around it, everything in between. It took God time. So you have to have respect for what it is you're trying to create and understand that it's going to take time. Because if you're not willing to practice for hours, if you're not willing to do this endlessly, you can't arrive at perfection without doing it for hours and without doing it endlessly. Sometimes I get frustrated with myself with making these videos because it's not easy for me to pick up this camera. There's nothing that comes natural about picking up this camera other than me like enjoying being in front of it. Like, I'll be honest. My advantage is probably that I enjoy being in front of the camera and that I enjoy kind of being goofy and being myself on camera. That's probably my only advantage. But everything else outside of those two things, I don't like. I don't like having to come up with ideas. I'm probably going to have to make 100 of these before it really makes an impact, or before like someone starts to notice that like, hey, this guy is saying something of real substance and value, something that could potentially change my life. So there's a lot of things that I'm going to have to be willing to do for hours. And honestly, I don't like scripting, right? Like something, you know, this is now I'm getting intimate, but me and my mentor, you know, something he's been telling me lately is like, brother, you gotta get comfortable. Like, you gotta, like, it's just so funny. Again, it's so funny that I landed on, you know, run towards pain. Because right now he's like, bro, you're being a dweeb. Like, you're running away from the work. You're trying not to script these videos, but that's what you need to practice doing. And that's something I hate doing. I like turning on my camera and freestyling things. I like things to come. I think in my mind, things should just come natural like that. And if it doesn't, then it's not a good video. Or I'm just not a good content creator, but that's not the case. It's just right now, I'm being called. I have a weakness, and my weakness is creating ideas and like being able to sit down and have the focus to, you know, script out a video and learning how to structure a script. Right now, I just feel like I'm all over the place with scripting. Like, I don't know how to stay on track with a script. I kind of created a soft script for this video, which is why I feel like I'm staying on topic so well. So again, this is me practicing. This is me putting in the hours. This is a rep. This is a rep so I can get where I want to be, which is making better quality videos, making videos that you can literally sit down with a pen and paper and write down things that you took away from my video after watching it and now apply it to your life so that you can move closer to where you want to be. Because I feel like that's why I'm here. So this is me putting in my rep. What rep are you putting in today to be who God put you here to be? Because a lot of the times, you know, we try to take all the credit for like, you know, what our goals are. But the truth is, brother, like what you wants you too, because God has put it in your heart. It's not just a desire of yours. It's something God has placed in your heart. So that's why I said, what does God put you here for? What keeps calling you? What keeps trying to get your attention and tell you, hey, put more energy over here, put more hours over here, work more tirelessly over here instead of over there? That's what's keeping you up at night. That's what keeps calling you. That's what wakes you up out of your sleep at night. I probably sound like I'm preaching, 40 deep in the Eastern, Shorty don't listen to Weekend. She arching back and making these bend with a kicking. And I wish I could dead out the beefing. I wish I could dead out, man. That's the vid.